Hey guys, how's it going today? Figured I'd come out here. Beautiful day in Wisconsin, pretty sandy right here. Come out here and I'd like to talk about that Tenere. God, we haven't had rain in a couple weeks here, and I don't think I've been out in this area with it so dry before. This is ridiculously sandy. Big log there. Got my new alt-rider skid plate on too, after getting my header dinged up pretty good when I was at Snake Creek last weekend. Seems to be really solid. I'm excited to see how that'll hold up. Oop, there's that skid plate going to work. My boots too. Got a big log plug up at me there. But yeah, I wanted to... This will probably be one of my last rides before winter. Forecast is looking pretty cold from here on out. So I figured I'd get out and talk about that Tenere. That looks like a really sweet bike. Half tempted to put this bike up for sale and get one for myself, but I'm not sure if it's worth the what is it, 40-50 pounds difference is worth it to me. Plus I already have this thing kitted the way I want it too. And I really love this bike as is. There's just a few things that I wish I could change about it. Like, my biggest gripe with it is the maintenance items on it are kind of a bitch to get at in a way. And that's another thing too, is the popping I get when I rev it. I don't understand why it does that. I imagine it's probably a lean running condition. The fuel controller would probably fix it, but I don't really want to modify this thing. Oh, another thing I really don't care for about this bike is where the catalytic converter is placed. I'm constantly hitting my foot on it. I'm sure a lot of people have that issue. Ooh, that's very sandy. Hold on. Ooh, really sandy. I'll take her slow. Yeah, it's like I said, the air filters on this thing are extremely hard to get to. You really got to take like all the fairings and everything off, but luckily it doesn't seem like it's that. You don't have to do it very often. So that's a nice bright side. Oil change intervals I like. 8,000 miles. Got to drop the skid plate for it though. I'm not used to it. I'm used to doing that like I was on my WR, where I could just drain it right through the skid plate hole. Well, any of you that own a T7 though, maybe you guys can weigh in and give me your thoughts on it. What's it like? How does it do off-road? I wouldn't plan on doing anything too crazy with it, probably just this kind of stuff, and maybe double track at the most. I'll go to the left side here, see how this is. Then the way that Tenere looks, it just looks like a Dakar bike. It looks awesome. But I'm just curious to know how that thing will fare in the dirt compared to this. Because I'm already really impressed with this thing. It handles basically everything except really deep sand and mud really well. Chose the wrong line there. But I mean, this bike, it's been pretty good to me. Got about, I don't know, 2,000 to 3,000 miles on it, something like that. I haven't ridden it much because basically all this year I spent my time riding the WR out in the woods and stuff like that. So Yeah, now with knobby tires on this, I enjoy this bike a lot more. I'll have to respring it though. It's obviously way too soft for me. That goes without saying with every bike that I ride. Yeah, and then it has that legendary MT-07 motor, the CP2 that everybody talks about. I've never heard anything bad about that motor. Plus the maintenance intervals on it are longer than what they are on this bike too, which is very impressive. Oil change I think is the same, but the valves are quite a bit longer on that. But then again, people crack these things open too, and there are people that, oh, very sandy. There are people that go 50, 60,000 miles with these things without even having to touch the valves. So I'm probably not even going to check them until 30, 40,000, something like that. Going down the right side now. It's a little sketchy right through here. It's one of those situations where panicking will only do you bad. I'll take on that log. Yeah, I don't know. And then Kawasaki is teasing another bike. It looks like it's going to be another KLR 650 almost, but who knows? Companies and their marketing, you know how it is. I mean, for God's sake, they teased the T7 for what, 3 years? Which sucks, but it eventually came to market, and I'm glad that Yamaha took their time with it. Going to Snake Creek again this weekend with this bike. I enjoyed it so much last time. Oh, lots of sand here. Enjoyed it so much the last time I went out on it. The only downside was that I bent up my header pretty good, which sucks, but it is what it is. It's kind of my fault for not getting a skid plate in the first place. I kind of thought I didn't need it, but the OEM skid plate is just like tinfoil. It's ridiculous. But yeah, back onto that T7 again. I just love the way it looks, but being 6'7", I'm also not sure if it'll fit me that well either. I really wish there was somebody I knew that had one, where I could swap bikes like out at a place like this and try it out. Let the guy ride my bike, and then I'll ride his. But I don't know anybody that has one. This bike still does really well though. If I had to have this as my only bike, it wouldn't bother me one bit. Then in a few ways it looks like the Africa Twin's a little bit better. You get a little bit more ground clearance, a little more suspension travel with this. But with how you're supposed to be riding these bikes, that's not too big of a deal to me. Has the same cross-plane crank as this bike does, so it has that nice bark that I like. I've really come to love the sound of this bike. And this bike is loud, has a very loud stock exhaust, which is one of the reasons I don't want to touch it. The crank on this bike is actually positioned lower in the frame than the T7 is. Because the T7's crank sits up, I mean, if you just look at the motor and where it's placed, this, like, crank is right here on the bike, and this is where the most mass is on the bike. Because those cranks they're very, very strong metal, and they're very heavy. And then if you look at the MT-07 or Tenere 700, the crank is up a bit. I don't know why that is, but I truly believe that this motor has a lower center of gravity, although I do believe it's a lot heavier though too. But I don't know. So I'd like to know how that affects it too, but the T7 does look a lot narrower, which would help for riding off-road. It'd be a lot easier to grip and ride more like a dirt bike. But this bike is already very good off-road for its size. It's not a dirt bike. We all get that. It's still a blast, though. I have way more fun riding this thing in the dirt than I ever did my KLR 650. My KLR 650 was very top heavy. You get into a hairy situation and start doing this, and then you're on the ground. Whereas this bike, it doesn't really do this. It kind of stays in its position, and as long as you put weight one way, put weight the other, it's fine. But I'm sure the Tenere is probably pretty similar to this. Better. I would imagine it being better. Sorry. But is it worth upgrading to? I mean, they seem like they'd be pretty similar. I don't know. I imagine this thing's quite a bit better on the road, though. I'll probably just end up keeping this and getting a dirt bike. I'm a very indecisive person. I'm sure a lot of you come to know that already. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. There's not really much more I can say about it besides the fact that, I don't know, is that 40-50 pounds really going to make that much of a difference? And I mean,